Hello, people. Welcome back to the channel. It's Chrissy Sawyer here. I'm going to attempt to do an eclipse reading. And it might go all over the place, but I'm going to endeavour to not kind of make it too woolly, to try and bring it down into the 3D. There's some quite big themes presenting in the field. So if I start very much in the 3D with the notes and the channelings that have been coming to me, just to set the frame, and then we'll see where it goes. Okay, so I'm just going to go into reading mode. Okay. So I think before I even start, I think I'm going to call this video Moving Beyond the Zone of Avoidance, because that's what's coming in, is the zone of avoidance. And it's to do with communication. And it's to do with unspoken truth. I've been talking recently about ferocity, and where is the ferocity? That instinctual response in us. What state of health is that in? And can we look at that? Is there anything that we can bring to that? Okay, so depending where you are in the world, at the end of this week, December 3rd, 4th, we're looking at a new moon eclipse, total eclipse in Sagittarius, total solar eclipse. So it's in Sagittarius, Western astrology, and true sidereal astrology. It's going to happen in Scorpio. I think I previously said it's going to happen in Ophiuchus, but I was going the wrong way around the wheel, so forgive me. So it's Sag Scorp, the deepest part of the wheel. So it's going to be deep. And it's happening in the 8th house of shared resources. Very scorpionic, death and taxes. Okay. So aspecting planets are Mercury, communication, Chiron, healing, Saturn. Saturn is kind of associated with time, restriction, divine timing, and I guess to some extent moving more deeply into flow state. That's taking me into, I think I said recently something about act without thinking. What does that look like in your world? And all of this is being wrapped up with Neptune going direct. So Neptune is kind of smoke and mirrors, illusion, the fogging of the truth, or the inability to grasp at clarity. So Neptune's going to station direct. So, well, what's that going to look like? So we're talking about clarity, reworking, alignment of new thoughts, the easing of that lost at sea feeling, and feeling into vulnerability. So again, we're coming into a really, really honest. Yeah, it's about saying the thing I think I shouldn't say. It's that. So these Sagittarian solar eclipses are vast. Sagittarius is the explorer, the expander. Jupiter expands. Sagittarius is philosophy, so belief systems, religion, politics, judgment energy. And they come a long way apart. So they tend to come 20-ish years apart. So we won't see another Sag total eclipse for 20 years. So it's happening on the new moon, which means it's the beginning of a 20-year cycle. So all the work you've been doing during COVID, kudos, well done. That is going to get cemented now into the beginning of this next big cycle. So in 2003, we had one. And then auspiciously, we've had two, one in 2020, December the 14th. We're having another one at the end of this week, and then it won't return until the end of November 2030. And I'm just noticing I'm starting to feel nervous talking into this energy. So I just want to presence that. What I'm also noticing is recently I've been having some deliciously uncomfortable conversations that a few years ago I would have avoided because I'd have been busy doing the polite dance. I pulled a sentence out of the sentence jar, which interestingly is, do I react or respond? Because when I'm responding, I'm coming from a place of personal truth. And when I react, I'm probably coming from something back in my history or acting out of a trigger. So the other big picture with this eclipse is it's beginning to wrap up the 18-month South Node in Sag. So the nodes are going to change January, February next year, but we're already in that wrapping up energy. So Sag has been in 12th house, Western. Sag has been in 12th house energy for a year and a half, near as damn it. So Saggies have, there's been some huge reworking of philosophical beliefs in the system, in the collective. Okay. So something else that's aspecting this week is Lilith. Lilith, Black Moon Lilith. Right. So we're into shadow. And it feels like a very real, raw, visceral shadow expression. And my nervousness is like a palpating solar plexus now. So I'm escalating. I'm just going to bring this through and see what comes. And my throat chakra's gone into clearing. All right. So Lilith, who I think is appearing in Gemini, which is the opposite sign to Sag. So she's bringing the heat. She is the shadow self. She is our rage and our fury. It's about how we use Mercury to self-justify. So how we use communication to self-justify. It's about where we don't own our dark, messy self. It's about where we sacrifice our wildness to make ourselves palatable in the eyes of another. It's about over-processing, overthinking, instead of, yeah, I did that, deal with it. I am that, deal with it. And letting go of the expectation of being liked in our individuality. So here we're talking about the process of individuation, of setting yourself apart from the collective. So the eclipse is happening right near the Great Attractor. Great Attractor is about going beyond, basically. I'm going to talk into the Great Attractor so you understand the beautiful metaphors that are coming through and what I've learned so far. So, going far beyond our concept of self. Evolving philosophy around belief systems. So what do you believe now that you didn't believe 2 years ago? The law, religion, science. Sag is the explorer, so its boundaries are as mutable as its sign. Okay. So where is the wiggle room in your narrative? Where is there room? Well, where is there room to be wrong? To be less fixated on something you believed to be right? Not that right and wrong exists, but you understand where I'm going with that. Our galaxy and other nearby galaxies are being pulled towards a specific region of space at a speed of roughly 2.2 million kilometers an hour. It's about 100, the Great Attractor is about 150 million light years away. We're not exactly sure what it is, but we call it the Great Attractor, discovered in the 1970s. Part of the reason the Great Attractor is so mysterious is that it happens to lie in a direction of the sky known as the zone of avoidance. I can't make this up. This is in the general direction of the center of our galaxy, where there is much gas and dust, Neptune in Pisces. Which means we can't see very far in the visible spectrum. When evidence of the Great Attractor was first discovered in the 70s, we had no way to see through the zone of avoidance. But while that region blocks much of the visible light from beyond, the gas and dust doesn't block as much infrared and X-ray light. As X-ray astronomy became more powerful, we could start to see objects within that region. So the beginning of visibility, the beginning of clarity. Look at the alignments, the synchronicities. What we found was a large supercluster of galaxies in the area of the Great Attractor, known as the Norma cluster. It has a mass of about 1,000 trillion suns, thousands of galaxies, okay? While the Norma cluster is massive and local galaxies are moving towards it, so the Great Attractor acts like a hoover, it sucks everything towards it. It doesn't explain the full motion of local galaxies. The mass of the Great Attractor isn't large enough to account for the pull. So relatively, from using the laws of physics, the speed and velocity of the pull doesn't make sense. When we look at an even larger region of galaxies, we find that the local galaxies and the Great Attractor are moving towards something even larger. It's known as the Shapley supercluster. It contains more than 8,000 galaxies and has a mass of more than 10 million billion suns. So can you see, we're kind of Great Attractor, Norma cluster, Shapley supercluster. So our range of vision is extending and extending and extending. So this is like the coming of the light. As a metaphor, it's the coming of the light. It's the arrival of clarity. The ability to translate the complex systems in which we live. Okay, you still with me? The Shapley supercluster is in fact the most massive galaxy cluster within 1 billion light years. And we and every galaxy in our corner of the universe are moving towards it. So as we hurtle through the cosmos, gravity shapes the path we travel. We're pulled towards the Great Attractor, and despite its glorious title, it appears in fact to be a perfectly normal collection of galaxies, which just happens to be hidden. Okay. So for me, what that's calling into question is our expectation and assumption. What do we assume in this? And what do we expect in this? Because it's just hiding 2 further superclusters. So again, Neptune in Pisces, gas and dust, illusion, delusion, or highly developed psychic abilities. Take your pick. Cosmic dust is what comes to mind when I think of Neptune in Pisces. So we're in the clearing of the cosmic dust. So Neptune is about to retrograde in Pisces. Has started its retrograde in Pisces, November the 20th, I believe. Sorry, is wrapping up. Neptune will turn direct on December the 1st, Wednesday, at 20 degrees of Pisces. Bear with me. So, as I was digesting all of this information, you might have to listen to it twice, I know I will. What started to come to mind for me was about what's been hidden, obviously. But in the personal, what we hide is very often our truth. And very often in the reaction to something, we can become preoccupied with doing the right thing, when right and wrong is a man-made concept. So it's only ever subjective. So do I react or respond? And that leads me to a couple of deliciously uncomfortable conversations I've had recently, which are very new to me. Things I might previously have avoided, I've gone into. And they've been wonderful, rebirthing unusual, Uranian, Plutonian, like deep underbelly conversations, real exploration, but in the personal, that's when we tend to avoid it. We can do that at work because we're not emotionally attached, but in the personal, it's been very revealing. And so I'm taken to a journal entry, which I'm going to share with you because part of what I want to grow in myself is transparency, vulnerability. That's probably what I'm feeling actually. It's vulnerability. Yeah, I can feel into that now. It's moving up into my heart now. Okay. Okay. So, this is March 2021. Theta state this morning and seeing again the Black Moon Lilith card that I pulled yesterday. And how she takes me back to my dreams of last night, to the howling gale force winds I stood in, to the conflicts with others and to standing my ground in a new power. She reminds me of going to war in 2017 and finding my dark voice, a voice to eviscerate with its cold, dark tones. It's the voice of the wild self, the untamed, unguarded, unfiltered expression of core essence. She, Lilith, is more at home on the fringes than in the center. Intrinsically ambivalent and polymorphous, she straddles conventional boundaries and eludes definition. So here we have a Uranian conversation taking place, which is unconventional. I'm reminded that a few weeks ago, I was guided to think about living through my alter egos and how would that look? I think I put this in a video. So when I talk about alter egos, I'm talking about socially the part of ourselves that we tame, suppress, put in a cupboard so that we can adapt to fit in and be liked. How many expressions of me can I unapologetically experience life through? This gave rise to, when did I last write poetry? And that gave rise to the place all my poetry comes from. It comes from the darkness of me. But where is that darkness? And when did I last dance in her fire? I journey on and find myself at the door of Clarissa Pinkola Estes, who's one of my heroines. And I see that she's just released a new audiobook called The Dangerous Old Woman, which features one of her poems called Standing in My Danger, which speaks right into the wild soul of me. So we're coming into, can you see how all the cloud and dust and fog is boiling down? It's boiling down into, how can I stand in the danger of me? Thank you. That's really simple now. How can I stand in the danger of me? Then I discover one of the earliest meanings of the word danger is protection. What it actually means is stand in the protection of me. Stand under my wing. Stand in my protection makes me ponder how the word danger has been largely demonized or supplanted with terror. I go to get breakfast, so we're still in March. I go to get breakfast. Okay. I've been saying for months now, where did this year go? Because part of me is still in March. It's because I needed to bring this forward. Thank you. April, May, June, July, August, September. 8 months, okay. I go to get breakfast. I flick on Radio 2 because I've got an old radio and it's the only channel it can hold. I flick on Radio 2 to hear Shiny Happy People playing, the very epitome of BBC radio, and an impulse in me rises up to crush the wave of toxic positivity, the light worker brigade whose work doesn't serve the holistic soul self, but instead only serves to liberalize it into a flaccid tempering of the wild self, and my heart pumps with black light. There's my poetry. Okay, so I had to get into a different expression of myself to find my poetry. I'm raising the devil in me. I'm raising the part of humanity that's been demonized. Okay. Oh. I would love to know if any of those words, I'm just going to close this down. I would love to know if any of those words have landed with you in a deep way. I'm so nervous, I can't tell you. I'm being prompted to read a poem and I'm really, really nervous. It's all in my higher heart now. So it's moved up, okay? It's moving up. It's in my higher heart now. So I'm just going to find my fuck it and I'm going to do it. Give me a minute. My whole body is shaking. Right, where's my book? So this is my poetry book. Which one do I read? It's got to be that one. So this one is called Old Lady Rant. Don't railroad me with your troubles and your woes. I am not a sponge for your unmet needs, nor a chalice to carry your poison. I have a story, a verse, and a song, but I cannot sing over your inane, unconscious drivel. I am pinned to a spot I no longer wish to occupy, suffocating as I hold safe space for you to bleed into me. Energy rape, check your proximity, hungry for love, trampling the innocent, ignorant of protocol. Not sensing my days, nor cognizant of my stupor, you prattle and witter the very life from my bones. Talking me dry, energy vampire, hollow carcass, devoid of gnosis, rant over. I wrote that after I went to a Mind, Body, Spirit show. This is 10 years ago. And there was this, I'd done a meditation before I went and I didn't close my system down, so I was glowing and they came to feed. And I had nothing to protect me. I was wide open. That's how spiritually hungry the world is. And these are all the words I didn't say, but they were in me. It's beautiful, divine rage. Okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to read Battle Code. So I'm going to read last poem. And this again was written about 10 years ago. And it was written for the wounded child. And as you know, grown wounded children are all of my work. A high-pitched squealing just happening in my right ear. Okay. Battle coat. I have a coat the world can see, exquisite in its making. Sophisticated by design, cleverly hiding what's inside. Its stitching, you see, is intricate, a carefully crafted web of meticulous little sutures to hide my bleeding wounds. Its embroidery, the finest, a garden of silken flowers, their delicate perfume masking a shrouded, secretive stench. Each tiny little button, a beautiful, glistening pearl, each pearl a tear cried in fear, unloved, unsafe, alone. Battlecoat wraps me in golden glow, colours me happy so no one will know the shame of this innocent soul, the haunting spectres which lurk in the pockets beneath the lining in the darkness in the murk. But I am not scared, you see, I do not quake at their slithering, for in the quiet of my own self, I have strength, I'm not withering. I know I'm no longer helpless. I know that I'm able to cry, to shout and rage or sob and weep. Safe passage for my innocent child. I wear my coat inside out now, bravely for all to see, each putrid stain a memory of a painful victory, a bloodied heroic warrior, Queen Boadicea. I raise my sword and loudly shout, bring it here, you fuckers, bring it here. I want to dedicate that poem to every hidden warrior on the planet. Because it's time. It's time for the rising. Oh my God. I want to bang my drum now. Okay, that's enough of me. That's enough of me. How are you people? Are you feeling it? Can you feel it? Right, let's go high and then bring it down. So we're going to start with the activation. Okay. We're listening. We're listening. Speak. Yes. 8th house, it's the Akash, it's karma. Whoa, wow. Wow. God, I feel so joyful, I can't explain it. Your guidance is divinely guided. Thank you to whatever guides me today. I want to say you're needed. I want to say it's time to speak. I want to say it's time to lead. It's time to find the battle voice. And that's the voice from self to self. It starts with self before it makes its way in the world. It's the response rather than the reaction. Like I always say, build the cathedral. Build the cathedral within, and then it will show up in the world. How are you being called to step up and lead? I'm really going to challenge you today. I can feel it. How are you being called? Ask yourself now, how am I being called to step up and lead? Okay, so I've got the beginning of new timelines coming, and this is huge. We're starting a 20-year cycle, aren't we? Okay. So, what's your calling? What's your calling? I'm noticing my legs want to move. My legs want to dance and stamp. It's beautiful energy. I don't know what Mintakan means. This card is longing for home, belonging, the original light workers. How does that card land with you? How does the image and the energy land with you? Could we say this is the deep water of Scorpio? That's cosmic water, isn't it? It's, oh God, this is the turning on of a light. It is about what you came here for. It is about self-trust. It's about listening to the inner priestess. This is not gender specific. This is the inner voice. This is listening to the inner voice and acting upon it. Underlying energy. You've been training for this for lifetimes. Gosh, I didn't see it going this way. This is gorgeous. Okay, so that sets the frame at the high level. Start bringing this down. Again, look at this. What is your soul calling you to do? So there's two questions that are similar. What is your calling? What is your calling? Right. Oh. Where am I going? I'm going to go to the Oracle decks and let's just have some messages and start boiling this down. High Priestess, Uranus, the higher voice, the revolutionary, the unconventional, the knowingness. And there might be some bolts of lightning during this eclipse season. Transformation, transforming thoughts, beliefs, philosophies, which are going to lead to behavior, because that's the physical, that's the last gateway, is where we change our behavior. And moving forwards. So if Friday is New Year's Day, what are you taking forward? What are you leaving behind in this reworking of the mental slave? It's kind of that energy, the part that got squashed. Gosh, wow, 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 just wow. Just those two cards together. Because there's a big question in the system, in the collective that I'm picking up on the moment. It's to do with communities, to do with groups of people. Be in the workplace, it can be a family system, a friend system. Is how am I being met in that system? Are you being met with the openness and purity that your journey is entirely your own and how you experience life is entirely your own? So are you met in the full respect of that or not? It is the simplicity of that really honest conversation. What's happening for me in this? Try that sentence in a group. What's happening for me in this? We sometimes avoid that narrative because what that attracts is the fixer, solver, mender. The person that wants to make it right for us, but it isn't wrong. We're just reporting what is happening for me in this is. And being able to speak in that tone is in itself a new beginning. We might not be used to that in our day-to-day narrative. It's the blossoming of love. It's not a love that wants to come in and interfere. It's the love that is actually quite distant and can just witness. It's that witnessing love. These are healthy conversations. Okay. Tell us where this is going to show up. Tell us where we can look for opportunities to have deliciously uncomfortable conversations. You don't want to go in, do you? Okay. Yeah, changing the wind, we know that. Co-creates, it's in the group then. The book and the fates, okay. So it's going to happen in groups, it's looking like. Okay, which is great because when we're talking about fates, we're not talking about wanting to control the universe. We're talking about, I'm going to say this thing and see where it goes, and then I'm going to let go of it. She's going to stay in her stars. Okay. So what if she introduces into mundane conversation that she's a star seed? How's that going to go down? Is that going to shatter some illusions in other people, some perceptions in other people? So we're going to be building. So we've got community and co-create. And really to practice this kind of narrative, we need other people. We need to practice these conversations with other people rather than behaving by the book in this old, outmoded kind of narrative that yeah, it's that. I don't have words. All right, so that's how it's going to show up in the collective. What might that look like? Well, that might look like, okay, so gosh, wow, okay. Show me. Oh my God, I can't believe this. What a juxtaposition. Do you stand in your priestess? Or do you sell out? It's that simple. It's that simple. Thank you. I've just got to say thank you to all that's guiding me today for the simplicity. We've had the simplicity card, haven't we? For the simplicity of these messages. Do I speak my truth or do I sell out? Yeah, wow. Do I shatter another's belief by bringing something I've been hiding for the last 20 years? Or do I just bring it and leave it to the fates? Yeah, that goddess card is talking about life force and sensuality. That's Kundalini all day home. That's the sacral chakra, sexual expression, it's power. It's power. Where do you dance in that wild, raw power? Can you? Do you? Do some surrender cards. Thank you. What can we surrender to? Oh, lol. Surrender to the fates. I'm a bit sticky about that word. It's fate. But you know what I mean. Surrender to what is. So stand in your truth, act in your truth, and then let the rest go. Flow with what is instead of fighting it. It's like sometimes when I'm guiding a client to get into their unspoken truth, because our spoken truth is largely manipulated. Unspoken truth, but it's that. I'm going to ask you a question. I want you to answer without thinking. I can see the answer come in, and then I can hear the mind come in. Oh, well, what if that's wrong? What comes in, that's it. Go with that and let the rest go, because the but that follows it is the organizing but. It wants to make it, insert words here, tidy, organized, clear, meaningful, purposeful, important, whatever. What if it's trying to be something else? We keep forcing it into this box. What if what wants to come out is shaped in a shape we can't even map to? Surrender to what is instead of arguing with it, fighting with it, not listening to it. When you can't change a situation compassionately, compassionately accepting it exactly as it is will bring you peace. That's in the moment. Naming what is in the moment. I think I said a couple of weeks ago, if it looks like a turd and it smells like a turd, it's a turd, and that's okay. If it feels awesome, if something bad happens, but it leaves you feeling unexpectedly free, liberated, name it. Because part of the mind will want to go back to the old confinement. Old confinement of this is where you should feel. Might not be true. Everything's changing. Surrendering to what is. Ooh, it's a challenging one, isn't it? Some people just cannot stand to sit still. That's the fixer solver mender. That's the wiring in the human that doesn't want to be seen as anything other than the norm. So it overacts, it overgives, overcompensates, over. Non-action is where we move to witness. Witness, very powerful, very quiet. Now is the time to be still, not act. Breathe, focus on your own power. Let others come to you. Become the great attractor. Become the attractor. So it's the end of the push, drive, strive program, isn't it? I think we've talked about this before. Addiction to outcomes. Capricornian, patriarchal, push, drive, strive, bottom line driven. Be successful because the only other alternative is that you're a failure. It's not true. It's 50 Shades. It's not true. And it's tiring. It's tiring. The changes that are going on at a DNA level are tiring. There's no two ways about it. Sudden fatigue, sudden temperature, sudden glands going up, sudden something that looks like a flu but lasts less than 10 hours, lasts a day. Headaches, lots of headaches in the system. Teeth clenching. I've had people come back to me in the last couple of weeks going, I can't believe you said teeth clenching. My jaw is really hurting. Teeth clenching. This is breaking down the resistance that's trapped in the body that just wants to move out so the jaw can be loosened. Right. Yes. I'm going to start wrapping the reading up, and I'm going to Sacred Rebels, because why wouldn't I? Is it all gone dark? Yeah, it's gone dark. Okay, let's start wrapping this up, please. Let's have some closing messages. I'm just noticing I'm not seeing any dark, heavy energy in here. This is all kind of this inspirational, aspirational, expansive, move beyond your borders kind of energy. I'm not saying it won't be challenging, but it feels, well, how does it feel to you? Leave me a comment. How has it felt to you? What was it like for you to hear my wild voice? What was it like to hear? What's it like in the face of, actually, what is my calling? What goes on in you? Wow. Visions of life beyond death. And you might not be able to see that just yet. But this massive eclipse, this massive, beautiful, inspiring, raw, visceral eclipse I don't know what the rest of that sentence is. I'm just going to leave it. Going beyond. Going beyond. What I'm getting with this card is like energy signatures of words. Words, you've heard me say words are wishes and curses. Like if you could see energy, would we be able to see the energy of every word that leaves our mouth, the energy of every thought that is emitted on the airwaves, the energy of every touch? Would we be able to see that? And if we did, what would that look like? So the big challenge here is when we start changing the inner narrative, because we're dropping into that sacral, wild, true, powerful voice. What's it going to look like in the world? That's the vision of life beyond death. So it's death of the small self, of the limited self, into this really expansive. It's bold, naked in the world, transparent. I'm loving this energy. Any more messages before we wrap this up? What time is it? What is it? This is the natural self. This is the sovereign self. And when we move into defending, what are we defending? Are we defending our ego? Are we defending another's perception of us? Are we defending our right and wrong, our good and bad? Or are we defending our sovereign right to be heard on our terms? There's a little caveat here around, sometimes the truth is belligerent. but let there be no will to wound in this truth. Because when we're talking about goddess and priestess energy, we're talking about wisdom. We're talking about wisdom. Wisdom is the application of everything we've learned in the world. That's how we lead. We lead by example. It's coming in on 5 energy, which is change, change. Has your inner voice ever said something like, no, I have a right to speak, and then it's been buried? So, yeah, some shadow work, definitely some shadow work this weekend. I would journal and journal and journal and journal. I literally have my journal in my office because it's pouring out. Journaling is to bring it into life, to bring through new concepts. I would say the most exciting part of this reading is you are being called. You are being called. Listen. Okay. So we're going to finish with an abundance card. This cheeky little deck. Let's have a closing card, please. Underlying energy. The word wants to be written. Journal. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Ganesh, the path clearer. There is an opportunity to do so much healing this week. As true offering arises, it becomes easy to let go. You start to trust that more will always arrive. You shift from mine, mine, mine to God's, God's, God's. Such freedom. And I don't know how those words land with you. They don't really land with me, but I just wanted to read them out. Okay, I've got it. So this can be about something as simple as space clearing. Clutter out there is a sign of clutter in here. And it might be a really simple exercise of what can I get rid of? Can I get rid of anything? So that's going to happen within, it's going to happen without. Because when we make space, well, nature hates a space. Nature comes in. So that's what I think they're referring to as this God energy is. It's nature, the cosmos, active intelligence will come in when we make space. So I'm seeing the 10 of Wands coming in, which is the card of burden. And what burden? Where have you taken responsibility for something which doesn't belong to you? That's a burden. That's a burden. That will take your resource. That's like spending money at a shop you're never going to use. You don't need anything from that shop, but resources going into it to uphold this system of burden. But if I let it go, yeah, yes, call it what it is. If you let it go, you will disappoint. Yes, so disappoint. Underlying energy. These cards are so cheeky. They're so cheeky. Yes, I call it willful disappointment. For me to truly be myself in this space, I'm going to have to willfully disappoint you because you think I'm that and you think I'm that because that's what I've projected onto you. That's the part of me I've shown to you. Okay, so we do it. It's how we gaslight ourselves basically because we're mad. Courage. Let me be open to courageously take the steps. Take the steps that are shown. This is and under that, oh gosh, look at these. Intuition. So acting, act without thinking. Once thinking comes in, intuition goes quiet. When intuition comes in, move on it. move. It's that quick. And that's it. My desk has exploded. So, I can't remember when I enjoyed doing a reading so much. I hope some of this has landed with you. I would, more than ever, really welcome your comments. I would love to hear your comments. What are you in this week? This is my birthday week, so leave me a happy birthday. It's my birthday tomorrow. So leave me a happy birthday. I'm having a happy birthday and New Year's Eve, it looks like, all in one week. So yeah, take your time, be super gentle with yourself. And I'm going to leave you with my love. That's it. Take care, and I'll see you all again soon.